Hello, hello. I am Francesca, and I am a portrait artist, art teacher, and I am so excited to be here today. Brush Hour is a weekly art hang, so you get to hang out and, yeah, talk about the week, talk about art stuff, kind of unwind, escape from all of the craziness. So we get to do that together. I'm just going to wait for some of the live people to come on. And yeah, I have a few things kind of planned for the day. Really excited about. This painting right here is from my class on Tuesday. It's a Sargent class, so we've been painting using inspiration from Sargent. And so this is one that I've been working on. And I'm going to be adjusting a little bit of it. I don't think I'll be working on it today. It's just what's on my easel right now. It's still like a little bit wet. And yeah, I'm really loving how it's turning out, especially with the blues and the oranges. And I actually did some, when I did my primed and prepped my background, I had some thicker spots that I kind of used, and it's in there as well, which I kind of like. I feel like it kind of breaks some sort of like wall. Yeah, kind of like disrupts it like in a good way, in my opinion anyway. This is one of my students from a recent workshop. And yeah. Okay. Okay, so yeah. What I'm also going to be, I think what I'm going to actually work on a bit today is this one that I did a couple weeks ago on Brush Hour. Actually, I did the underpainting drawing for it, and then I worked on it afterwards. So yeah, there's still some work I want to get done on it. So yeah, I thought that could be kind of fun to work on. I love these oval panels as well. They're lots of fun. But yeah, so this past week has just been filled with some painting, starting a new commission. It's a private secret commission, and once it's done, I'll be able to share it. Otherwise, actually, I would have loved to have worked on it tonight, but yeah, so that one I'm super excited about. Had my Sargent workshop. We went to the zoo today with Ryan and Delilah. So that was fun. It was a little impromptu visit. And yeah, so let's see. And actually, before I do that, I actually thought I want to I want to varnish this, but I'm going to actually use this Gamblin 3-in-1 first. I've heard it's good to kind of prep your piece before you varnish it. It kind of helps it kind of bind and bond together. So I already have some actually in this jar right here that I'm going to use. And I definitely won't paint anymore on it. This is actually a painting from life I did. It was a live model at Scottsdale Artist School, one of their open studios. And he was awesome. He sat so well, just had this like little slight smile that kind of like really added a lot to it. He's actually an opera singer, which is really cool too. But yeah, when I walked in, because I don't ever really check before whoever the model is, because it's kind of part of the fun. And but yeah, he was super fun to paint. This green on his shirt that he was wearing too, I was able to implement into there. But yeah, I did a long while back now, and I would thought it'd be fun to varnish it. I've been meaning to. So what I'm going to do first, before I like actually seal it, is I'll use some of this 3-in-1. Bring this a little closer. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop in a comment. Happy to answer any. But yeah. This is a great way to really see how the paint sits in, like all of the values. It kind of like brings it back to life. I don't know how much it shows up on the camera, but it definitely does. Because after a little bit, the paint tends to sit in a little bit. And I'm actually just doing him instead of the whole part. At least for now. I've been wanting to play around with varnishing matte in the background and gloss in the foreground. So just to see how it kind of goes. You can see a little part of my brush broke off into it. Yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite painting from Life sessions. Yeah, so then it kind of will keep a little bit too. I've been really impressed with how well it sits on without sinking in. Yeah. Ooh, I love it. And then a couple more I'm going to do before I move on to Delilah. See, that's so crazy how it brings out so much of the darks. And I'm kind of like moving it around a little bit, so it's like getting in any of the tooth or texture. This was from a demo I did at Mesa Art Center. Got some workshops coming up there. I have a Klimt workshop coming up on February 21st, which is a Saturday, and it's going to be lots of fun. We do a kind of brainstorm and study and get inspired by Klimt, his life, his work, and then everyone either brings in their own reference that they want to be using and doing something off of Klimt style. Actually, I have this one right here that I did there. I love this one. So you know what? I'm actually gonna work on this one because this is needing it. See all those shadows, how much it comes out. Kind of brings it again, kind of brings it back to life. And I've been using this medium with my painting as well throughout the process. So then it kind of like works in the whole time. But a big thing that I do always recommend, like in my workshops, especially is, don't worry about so much of the medium, especially in the beginning when you're trying to really get comfortable and familiar, because it can be a little overwhelming and it can deter you from really trying and or moving forward. So what we really want to focus on is just having some decent paint and some brushes, and you can get away with really any type of brush. You can have super awesome expensive brushes, but you can also totally get away with inexpensive brushes. But paint, you do want to make sure that you're getting something that's not like student grade, because good paint will go a long way. There's a couple of things I'm looking forward to maybe adjusting on this transition right here, but that'll be another day. Maybe I'll do that on brush hour. But yeah, so this is one of the ones that we did just for our Klimt inspired. So for the Klimt classes, you can totally bring your own reference to use. I have plenty that you can use as well. You can do an actual Klimt recreation too. That's totally fine. We'll also be doing some gold leafing, which will be a lot of fun. And so, yeah, you can go ahead and go to francescabessettart.com. I have a link to my workshops there. You can go to mesaartcenter.com and it has all of that in there. Hey, Marcus. Hey, Matt. Hi, Francesca. Since you're varnishing, have you ever used retouch varnish? Is there a difference between retouching and regular varnish? Great question. So retouch varnish I do like. It's nice because you can still paint on top of it. Whereas if you just use like an actual varnish, then you're not going to want to keep painting on top of that. It won't adhere. So with retouch, you can, this is essentially like a retouch varnish, but honestly, I kind of like this better. Just as I've been using it on my pieces, I've noticed that it gives it a really nice finish and I can still paint on top of it. It's not super stinky. Some of the retouch varnishes are, and trying to think of the brands that I like for retouch varnish. But yeah, so I've been using more of this. And again, this is the Gamblin 3-in-1. I think that's a better, yeah, Gamblin 3-in-1. And what this is this you can use to prepare all your panel like for wood. And then you can also use it as like a medium to give more fluidity, especially like in our shadows and such. The more you get into your whites, you probably want to use less of it, but that's just stuff you can play around with and figure out. But yeah, an actual varnish, you don't want to paint anything on top of. So, but I've actually left retouch varnish on and, just left it like that. I don't think you have to like use the actual varnish until you like want to send it off. So that's when you might want to add another layer of it. But if you ever want to retouch your painting and if you've used permanent varnish, then you'd have to remove it with Gamsol. So yeah, varnishing can be a little stressful sometimes. So using something like this first, I think is really helpful. Yeah, so I just want to get that to be a little bit more of an easier transition. I don't know if you can tell in the photo, but it like is catching too much light. So let me see if I can even get a little bit closer. Let's see, so I'll get a little bit of my red. Like this piece right there just needs to be a little bit darker. It's catching too much light, which is making her look like she's pouting or something. So I'm getting something nice and small. And just using my primaries right here, just use some red, yellow, and blue. Make it a little darker. Just needs a little bit. It's looking lighter. There we go. I'm glad I did that because that's been bugging me. Like that, but yeah, I don't want to mess with it too much because you can totally go crazy readjusting your paintings. But essentially, like I'm just even kind of glazing it on a little bit. So glazing is actually really great with this 3-in-1. So it's just thinning your paint out. And the glazing is really what a lot of like Velasquez and a lot of the other, masters in history, why they have so much depth and luminescence in a way is the glazing. So yeah, sometimes when you're like, oh, I can't get, something just right with with the layer you're on, you can always just let it sit, let it breathe, come back to it. And sometimes you can fix things a lot easier. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to leave that for now. Actually, way happier with that one. Yeah, so this Klimt one, it was, trying to use more of symbols and keeping abstraction. So I love how a lot of his work is, more realism in the faces, and then a lot, or the body, hands, and then a lot of abstraction around it, which is just like less is more. Sometimes we don't need everything perfectly refined. And it just depends on, what you're going for, because you can obviously, there are several artists that do an incredible job painting every little centimeter of the painting. So yeah, there's that. Let that one. Yeah, so this one too, I don't want to mess with this one. I do love this one, but that lets that 3-in-1 really just sits in well with it. Okay. My little Delilah. So I did this on Brush Hour a couple weeks ago, and then I colored it after. And this right here, though, just to bounce back to this, I'm gonna keep working on it, but add some more form right in her cheek right here. It needs a little bit more light in here, and then I'm going to lighten up this shadow in here as well. But yeah, this one has been a lot of fun. Just kind of always focusing on subtle value changes. And Matt, you had recommended or asked about landscape, and I love that. I've been thinking a lot about that this week, and I do love landscape and I love portraits, so I'm trying to also use more landscape in the backgrounds with portraiture, and trying to also have like a combo of like more of a graphic look for my landscapes, and again that juxtaposition of the abstract and realism, just like in the Klimt painting I just had there. So what I'll do with this is like nice and dry, opposed to the girl I just showed you. So I can definitely put this on here as a form of like oiling out. You'll see how much that can make a difference. Okay. Marcus Delilah is so cute there. She really is. Also, Marco, is that you? Is that what your YouTube handle is? Just realized Marcus Alanis. That is so clever. I thought it was last time. I just couldn't tell. But yes, this kind of gives it a nice kind of seal, especially since it's dry. Roman version of my name. Love that. What's the Roman version of my name, Marco? And every time I'm varnishing or doing anything, I'm always looking to the side too, to make sure I'm getting all the little parts so you're not missing like a little patch. Okay. I have been going off of this black and white photo. I want to keep doing that. Like this one right here, I've been using, you know, that, and it's a lot more saturated, which is fine because it is like a really, you know, you can see that warmness. But sometimes our phones can give us such a warm effect, so it like auto adjusts. So it's good to, you can always edit that and everything, but I could tell I was kind of veering a little warmer because I kept seeing that in there. Okay, and then also what I did on here is I kind of sanded the eye area because I thought it was a little too like flat and solid. And even though it's a really dark value there, I do want to make sure it's nice and soft. Our eyes are constantly moving because we're blinking, we're moving. The only really parts of us that don't move are like our nose and our ear. Matt, very cool. Sorry, I'll have to rewatch the retouch varnish answer because I was doing dishes and cooking. Oh, no worries. I can actually just repeat that. So the retouch varnish you can paint on top of. You can still paint on top of a retouch, and varnish you don't want to. You'll have, if you want to do anything else to it, you want to use a Gamsol or some type of mineral spirit to remove the varnish. So it's like, as you know, super permanent. So retouch varnish is nice because it is sealing it. And then you can still paint on top of it. But same with this 3-in-1. This 3-in-1 is, you can get that same effect. So you can at least do this before you actually varnish. So, and yeah, I didn't finish. Actually, it has it back here. So dry time has as like a 3. It is really thin, and it has like, it's in between a matte and a gloss. So it's not super glossy, which I do like too. So this will have a little, it's still a little bit wet, which is good because I can still paint a little wet and wet, which is all preference, but I typically like to do that instead of it being dry. So you can still get that same effect. Okay, so I'm just kind of squinting at her and trying to get an idea before I just like rush in. I can see some things I'd like to fix, but yeah, okay, like that right there. And so just like I would start a painting, I'm going to start with my darkest first, and then go to lights. I do want to start pastel and watercolor landscaping. Yeah, pastel I like. Watercolor I've never super gotten into. It's definitely, I think it's pretty difficult because you are doing light to dark, so it is the opposite. And then it's not as forgiving. So, but people that like, there's an artist, Nick Alm, ALM, I think is his last name. If you love watercolor, definitely look him up. His work is absolutely incredible. He does a lot of oil paintings too, but he does do watercolor, and it's just incredible. So, yeah, it's just interesting too, like what works with our brains. Like I like thicker and stuff that can be malleable. But okay, well, I'm gonna grab a better brush that I want. So what I want to do, my goal for this, because that's always like what we want to do is make sure we're keeping a goal in mind. But I want to make sure that I want to add a little bit more depth. And so I want to lighten it up a bit too, but sometimes when we want to like lighten up, we actually need to maybe darken some areas. So I don't want to make it, anything too dark, but somewhere in the middle. But that's why it's good to go in and adjust any dark areas first. Because the lighter we bring things, they tend to kind of lose its color sometimes. So yeah, I don't want to go straight into the whites yet. So just get the perimeter of her so that way it's like receding back more. I can tell this needs to go out this way. Yeah, when we were at the zoo today, I mean, it was so nice outside today. So I mean, I'm sure it was like that everywhere, but wow, we had such a beautiful day and there was like no one there. We usually go in the morning and there's so many kids there and everything, which for schools and stuff. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is the time to go. And having a baby, we're like nap trapped. I'll have to check them out. Marco. Francisca Darlina Besettia. I love that. And I'm doing this really thin as well. So because I don't want to necessarily paint over what I'm doing. I want to, um, be able to just add some depth to it. And if I just glob paint on top, it will remove all kind of that work I just did. And when I was like sanding / scraping, you can use a palette knife or do like this knife right here because it has a really good blade on it. And so yeah, I just kind of like went in and broke this up because it just looked too graphic. And if I want anything graphic, I want it like in my background so it helps make my foreground look a little bit more realistic. So yeah, I already like even that, like being able to see in a little bit. And same thing, like maybe right here with the hair. Usually better to do that before you put the medium on, but still do the trick. But you can, some people use like sandpaper as well, which you can totally do. I personally feel like I never really like the effect. So it's just, that's all like personal preference, but okay. And so down here, especially if I squint up at her, like look at this value, especially like in the screen, you can really tell. So I want to get this darker. Oh my gosh, when she was a little thing, she just like was all, because we all stretch as we get older, right? And so when they're little, they're just like a little, they have no neck. So she had like 5 chins. It's the cutest thing ever. And I also kind of felt like maybe this neckline was a little bit too high because I don't want to make her look too old either. But yeah, still using the medium. And so like over here, That way it's, transparent enough when we're glazing. There, and I feel like I need to, take her forehead down. Like it needs to be a little smaller. So as I'm measuring, yeah. And her eye right here, from her eye to her eyebrow, basically is the same width as where her forehead is. So and yeah, I'd always talk about grouping this part together without it, or at least trying to keep your values subtle enough to where it doesn't look like just two like dots, because it's really distracting to the viewer. And the eyes right here, I'm actually just kind of trying to get the darker on the eyelid. So it does look darker right there, instead of just filling it in solid. Yeah. Also kind of looking in the camera as I go, because it's the same thing as like taking a photo. You're gonna kind of see it for what it is. Okay, so I got kind of like the perimeter of her, and then, which I'm using more of like warm colors. What I can do too is I need to bring the background, I think, a bit more Okay. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to like frame up the a little bit because I just made some of those adjustments. Another good thing about using like a retouch varnish is, say you like how what you're working on, but you're like, oh, I want to like adjust it. And if you don't like it, you can wipe it all away, and it'll go back to what is that where that retouch varnish was, or before the where after you sealed it with the retouch varnish. So that's definitely like a pro. If you're like, I do want to do something with it, but you don't want to lose what you've done, that retouch varnish will work. I don't know how much it would do that for the 3-in-1. I'd have to like test that, but I imagine something similar. I'm just gonna like blur this a bit. Everything's kind of like a lost edge a bit over here. Okay, and so I like this open space right here, so I'm not gonna mess with any of that yet. I think that like adds a lot to it. What do you guys think? Okay, and so as I'm squinting at this too, I want to get more of some more like temperature over here. It's still a little too solid. Use a different brush. So I want to make sure this is all dark enough. Oh, that's dark in it. Matt says that is cool. I'll have to read up on it. I have a whole bottle of it from days when when Blick was still. Yeah. Actually, that's where I got. Are you talking about the 3-in-1, Matt, or the retouch? Mm-hmm. There we go. So yeah, I'm trying to get this Terminator on her, which is kind of trickier with babies because they're so round. Round faces are so fun to paint because you can really like build up this really subtle transition of value and temperatures. But there still is going to be like a terminator where that light does terminate. Yeah, that retouch is fun. It should be still good as long as it's not dried out. That's the only thing with like retouch varnish. If you just like leave the varnish as retouch, um, like the archival value, I don't know what the archival value is. Now that means it's probably, it'll be good in our lifetime, but uh, will it last the test of time when everything's just a landfill or something in a few 100 years, 1,000 years? Yeah, this is, I feel like everything is so crazy right now when I don't even have to really explain why. But, like, I don't know. I feel sometimes, just to be super candid, lately it's been like kind of hard wanting to, share my art. I feel like with everything going on, it feels like it's just, I don't even know, like, not anything is important compared to everything going on. So, anyway, but it's definitely something that keeps us happy, keeps us human, right? So, I do try to get that like voice out of my head a bit. Um, but yeah, hopefully everyone is staying vigilant and taking care of their mental health right now. But yeah, people are being safe. Okay, so yeah, I do know that like with her nose, I'm gonna want to kind of brighten up a little bit. And I kind of darken this up too. Soften this up. She has this like little swoop of hair that goes down, which actually now all of a sudden it's starting to like part, which is super adorable. Um, but I want to make sure I do still get that sort of like, shape going on because it is what like makes her her. Is anyone working on anything recently? Matt, you've been doing a bunch of photography, which is, its own art, of course. A lot of great shots and different models you're using. And as I squint, I'm trying to like also make sure that I'm focusing on this like orbital bone. That says I heard a TED talk that said that art is the greatest forms of protest. Yeah, I do agree. It's you know, a lot of it is too, is I feel like trying to, you know, I don't know. I don't want to get like too obviously political or anything like that, but we obviously are living in really crazy times right now. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to probably just want to retreat and, or, you know, not do the things that make us happy because we're so just absorbed in the craziness. And so, you know, but that's not helping anything. That's giving in to everything. But I would love to watch that TED Talk if you have it or whatever. Send it my way. That would be a good one. But yeah, it's like let's make sure that we are trying to do things that still make us happy, not giving in to being, you know, at odds with one another. Matt has been editing photos for a client before brush hour for like an hour. Continue afterwards. Around 100 pics. Wow, that's awesome. Was it like a um, for anything in particular, like headshots or? I like the one that you did. You did some like black and white ones of some of a woman. She had like dark hair and that was really pretty. And also as I'm adding this, I am going like super light. That's why like if you look over here, it's not my palette is not like thick with paint. I'm really trying to keep it thin with this medium. Try to find message you. Yeah. Yeah. If you see it, that'd be awesome. And then keeping in mind like the direction of the brush strokes, like the form of the face. I'm gonna take a step back and see over away. Yay. And just this little bit of glazing. Hello, Cheryl. Painting is coming alive. And just this little bit of layering with the glazing really makes a difference again instead of like globbing on a bunch of paint. Because if you want to get like go hard in the paint again, just start a new one. Okay, now I think I want to maybe brighten it up a bit. Let's see. And so I am actually keeping this kind of thin. I'm gonna brighten it up with applying it really thin with this medium. Yeah, this white, I don't usually glaze with white, which I basically am. I just added some of my, obviously my medium, but then some of this white right here, which is just the Great White from Jerry's, and then some of the Cad Red and Raw Sienna. And so it's giving me this, you know, thinned out version. And then I can kind of just go over it thinly, so then it's still keeping the colors that I have underneath here too, the different temperatures. And as I squint, this area is darker, so I should probably glaze a little bit of a cooler temperature in between the eyes, because that whole part is, for the most part, going to be coming out of shadow. Some people have a flatter keystone that's right here. So, however, you know, that person is, but I can still see it slightly on her. So I'm just gonna kind of just tap it in a bit. Just give a little bit less green, a little bit of warmth in there. I do like these dagger brushes because you can manipulate it and And Delilah has this like super rosy nose. Most babies do, but do want to add that in here. Yeah, so is anyone doing anything fun this weekend? I think we're gonna have like really beautiful weekend of weather. Have a great weekend and week. You know what? Thanks, Matt. I just totally realized it is 8 o'clock. That was the quickest hour ever, I feel like. Okay, yeah. I hope everyone does have a great week. Yeah, junkyard photo shoot. That's really cool. There's so many cool places in the Phoenix area for photo shoots, including the zoo. Oh my goodness, we've been going to the zoo a bunch lately, and that's a really great place for photos. So all right, guys. Well, I will see you guys next Thursday. Check out all my events. I also have a Paint Your Pet coming up at Sleepy Whale in Chandler. And Paint Your Pets are so much fun. You get to either choose your favorite animal or choose your pet. And you send in photos of your pet, and then I pre-draw them on canvas for the class. And then I teach everyone step by step how to paint your pet and make it come alive and use harmonious colors, and we'll also have some frame options too. So these frame, like that one up there, I'll have an option where the canvas will fit into the Levy 2 Marco, Levy Mom. Um, and yeah, so that's coming up on the 19th of February. You can check that out on my website, francescabessettart.com. I also have a lot of learning videos and tutorials on there. So yeah, hope everyone has a great week. Be creative, stay inspired, and I'll see you guys soon.